What's up, podcast world? We got a special episode today, again, coming straight out of the music scene. This Life Ain't For Everybody podcast. Thank you so much for the subscriptions, and thank you for supporting the partners and sponsors that support us. Today's episode, again, is brought to you by our friends Lynchburg, Tennessee, the Americana, the Jack Daniels. Enjoy it responsibly. Never allow underage drinking, but you know what Jack does for us. It gets us through the good times, the hard times, the breakups, the newlyweds, everything. Jack is always there for you, no matter what kind of mood that you're in. So rely on Jack Daniels, but do it in moderation and get creative with it. They got so many great flavors. They got more coming. I love the apple right now. I've always loved Jack Tennessee Fire, and Old Number 7 is my favorite. Jack Daniels, the most American company in our country. This 4th of July, enjoy it. But if you're on a boat, if you're on a deck, if you're on your back porch, just stay responsible. Stay safe out there, America. I'm fired up for my guest today. I've been listening to this man's music. I don't even know how long now, but all the way back to Small Town USA and I'm Gonna Kick Your Ass. And I don't even know how many number one hits you have, Justin Moore, but what a career, man. Congratulations, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate the kind words. And matter of fact, I just wrote a song called That Wasn't Jack that might just be my next single. So that's fitting. Yeah. So, yeah, we've been really blessed, man. We've had a really good run over the last 13 going on 14 years, which is kind of mind blowing to be able to when I sit back and think about it being that long that we've been successful and stayed relevant on the radio, it's just mind blowing. But we've had a great run and really appreciate the support over the years of guys like you and country radio, and it's been fun, man. I wish we had the chance to get back out there and play a few shows right now. I'm chomping at the bit, man.
I know. I think about when I'm at your concerts and I hear the songs, it's like, you know, it's kind of like going to a George Strait concert to where every song that comes on, you're just like, oh yeah, boom. And the crowd gets it. And I think that that's what's gratifying about a Justin Moore show is that you have that relationship with the audience because they've gotten so ingrained in your lyrics and your songs. And one of the things, you know, I want to get into a lot more besides music because I'm sure you get bombarded with it. And I know that you have a huge passion for it, but is there a difference in your opinion, Justin Moore, of the songs that you write? Like if you take Why We Drink, which is what my mom is like obsessed with the song. She comes out to the pool and we'll listen to it on replay. And when that first line hits, you're just like, man, that's just so America. That's so us. And is there a difference to you of singing that song that you have publishing and you have you're a co-writer on, and a song that you weren't a writer on? Is that hit home in a different way when you get a hit like that?
You know, that's a really good question. And yeah, I've never been asked that, to be honest with you, but I see where you're coming from, but no, because if I do record a song that, if I record a song that I didn't write, I always, one of the, you know, requirements, at least to me when I'm listening, is that it sounds like something I would have written or wished that I had written. And so, and I've always said, you mentioned George Strait, which hasn't written very many of his songs. And there's a talent to finding and hearing songs that you didn't write and hearing them as hit records and songs that'll move people. And there's nobody better than him in country music history at doing that. And I've always said I'm a fan of guys who do what he does and guys who write their own music. It helped me figure out what I wanted to be and say and do as an artist by writing my own songs. But I always have said in the same breath that I owe it to my fans and myself to record the best music out there that I can find, whether I write it or whether somebody else writes it. So, you know, when I'm out there on stage, I don't really think about, you know, I wrote this, so I have more passion for it. I try to be as, you know, any song that I record, I try to have the same amount of passion for, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And I just always wondered, like, you know, it's really cool to hear you say that there is an art in hearing that song, like George hearing a Dean Dillon song and going, yeah, I think I could take that to radio and make it a hit. There's a true talent to that. And
yeah. Another guy who's really good at that, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, you're not.
I apologize for interrupting you, but another guy who's really, really good at that over the last decade plus is Aldean. I mean, he didn't write, to my knowledge, many songs, but he's really, really good at picking them. And there's an art to it, man. There really is. I know for me, I've had some pitched to me and I go, I don't know. And then so-and-so makes it a big record and I'm going, crap. An example of that was I got pitched Dirt on My Boots by Party. And I just didn't hear it. And he did. It's maybe one of his biggest records, certainly one of his biggest records, if not his biggest record. And I'm just, every time I hear it on the radio, I'm going, oh gosh, which all artists have that story, in their career. But anyway, I just wanted to point out, yeah, like Aldean's really good at that over the last 10, 15 years too.
How does that happen? You're sitting at home and your publisher calls you and says, hey, we got one we want you to listen to. Some songwriters that work for this publishing house just cut this song Dirt on My Boots, and you hear it.
They can kind of come from anywhere. I moved to Nashville in 2002 and, have developed relationships since then, started and developed relationships since then. And so I'm friends with a lot of the publishers, not only my own. And so they'll send me songs, but it's actually the job of a producer, your producer, typically to go gather songs for you to listen to. In my case, typically it's done that way. All the publishers send songs to him, and he kind of can weed through the ones he knows I won't want to listen to, probably, and he'll send me the 20% of the ones he thinks that I may dig. And so when you have outside songs that I didn't write would be outside songs. You do, if you like them and you think you may want to record them, you do what's called putting them on hold, which means nobody else can go record them if I have them on hold, or if Blake Shelton or whomever. And so it's just kind of the process that we use in the industry, if you will. And so I had Dirt on My Boots on hold for, I don't know, a week or something. And I dug the idea. I don't know. I just didn't fit what I was doing at the time. And I don't know. And so I let it go, and Party gets it just like that. And I'm like, oh crap. Another example of that is a song called The Drinking Class, which Lee Brice ended up recording. I had that song on hold for like 6-8 months. I was living with it. And I'm like, man, it was between that song and another song off of one of my earlier albums that I was going to record. And I went with the other song. And the day that I let it go off hold, Lee Brice grabbed it. And that's when, you're like, well, crap, that I made a mistake there, and my wife loved that song. And is it all up to you?
Song. Is it 100% your call, Justin? Like your management?
Yeah,
it's all up to Justin Moore to say yes or no.
That's right. I mean, I have the final say. I've never been forced to record something I didn't want to, or vice versa. I'm not allowed to record something that I wanted to. And I'm all ears. I want everybody's opinion. The more ears you can have hear something, the better. But yeah, it's funny because my wife loved that song, and then Lee makes it a big old smash hit, and same thing with Party. And every artist has those stories. I'm sure they've done the same thing also. There's just, you can only record so many songs. I remember Jake Owen telling a story about giving up Big Green Tractor, which was just a monster, but I think he actually suggested, hey, maybe send this to Aldean. This is a little more him than me, or something. I wish he'd have sent it to me.
that was one of Aldean's first hits, wasn't it? Or
that's
not the first hit.
That was the song, in my opinion. I don't know if he would answer the same way, but just from an outsider's perspective, that was, to me, She's Country and then Big Green Tractor back to back were what sent him into orbit, superstardom. That run right there put him on a different planet. So, but yeah, just great songs.
Are you? How does one? If somebody said, Chad, how do you describe Justin Moore's music? I have my way of saying it, because there's what you call the tailgate country, in my opinion. I think that there's bro country, there's traditional country, there's the Stapleton that's more of a of his songs are deep and dark. They're not really the singer. You can't go to a Stapleton song and expect to stand up and sway and sing along. You just can't. I've tried, and I just
Right.
man, it's like you can't.
Very
But
few people in this world sing like him.
yeah, very few, right? But Jamie Johnson can sing like that, but I can go and I can jive with his lyrics, and I get a little bit. So there's all these different levels of music and these different genres within country music now. And I've been accused of getting on a high horse once in a while about, where's the real country music at? So when I hear a Justin Moore song, I'm always like, okay, well, he lives the life. He's from the country. He sings about the country. He writes about the country. It's not a character to me of who you are. Like, you love your football, you love the SEC, you love the Razorbacks, which we're going to get into. You love the outdoors, you love family. Is there anything about the way you choose songs that you have to go down that road of like that you're keeping them all kind of in that same consistency of that you're not probably going to sing a song about a girl up on a tailgate dancing, but that did work for Luke Bryan and did work for Aldean at a time, but Justin Moore's not? Is that what you mean by passing on some of the songs that you just don't hear?
Yeah. And it's, to me, I've always said that, people ask me, hey, why do you think, and let me see how they put this. What do you attribute your success and in particular longevity to? Because it's just hard to sustain it in this business, especially as an artist, with all the different types of country music you just mentioned. Throughout my career, when I first started my career, it was more country, if you will. Small Town USA was straight ahead, country. And middle part of my career, it kind of moved to the bro country, rap country kind of stuff, pop country, whatever you want to call it. And had I come out in the middle of my career with a song like Small Town USA, it probably wouldn't have been played on the radio. So to get back to my original point, I always try to record. My answer to the question that I said that I've been asked so many times, the longevity question, is I've always tried to provide insight as to who I am as a person, whether it be an interview or whether it be with my music, when I write songs, when I record songs, when I listen to songs that I didn't write, because people want to know what you sound like on the radio and they want to know what you look like on TV, as disappointing as that is when people see me. But I think they want to know more who you are as a human being. I really do. I think that matters to people before they go spend money on a concert ticket that they really can't afford, or a t-shirt or an album or whatever the case may be. And I think we've done a pretty good job of providing that insight, whether it be, a song I write or a song that I just hear. And, I'm somewhere between, and certainly I'm not comparing myself to these groups as far as talent wise or career wise or anything like that. But stylistically, you kind of went there at the beginning of this thought, somewhere between Leonard Skinner and George Strait, Alan Jackson, because that's who I grew up listening to. That was as wide a range as I got growing up. I didn't listen like a lot of artists out there today. I grew up listening to everything: rap, pop, rock, country. I just wasn't like that. I first band I was playing with was a Southern rock band. We played Marshall Tucker, Allman Brothers, ZZ Top, all that kind of stuff, and Wet Willie. And so that was the kind of stuff that I grew up listening to, along with, I grew up in the, when I learned to love music, it was in my formidable years, if you will, was late 80s, early 90s. And the, country was booming then, country music. And so that's kind of the range that I kind of, when people ask me, hey, what kind of stuff do you do? It's somewhere between there. It's more rock and guitars than a George Strait, but I think a lot of the, writing style and stuff is because I was a fan of Dean Dillon and those kind of guys. So and Hank Jr., Alabama. I love how they always talked about home, and the South and hunting and fishing. And I loved all that. And so those were pretty much my main influences and kind of how I modeled my style after, if you will.
Well, yeah, that late 80s, you got the Trits and the Chestnuts and the Lawrences and the Diffees and just this air. And that's when Garth came out with kind of the Hat Pack. And the music was so real to me. Like when I would turn on a Chestnut song and he would say stuff like it's too cold at home and it's too hot to golf. Man. I'm just like, it just hit me in a way to where I'm older than you. I think, what are you, 33, 34?
36. Okay,
I'm 45. So I was a little bit older than you. Listen to these lyrics, and I was in a different phase of my life to where I was going to these concerts as a guy in my young in 1990, 91. I was in high school. So, I'm 16, 17 years old, and I'm hearing this stuff and I'm going, man, this is when my dad would play Poncho and Lefty and The Gambler and all these songs I grew up on. I was like, man, this is good country music. So when you're talking like this, Justin Moore, I'm sitting here going, do you ever get controversial with the way that you either speak about the current state of country music radio? Because I know they're streaming and I know the money's in touring, but if you can stay relevant for 13, 14-year career and you're still going at 36 years old with hit after hit after hit, does it ever make, because I heard people like Colin Ray say things like, I would never even get played on the radio today. And I don't think that Colin Ray would. And Colin Ray is a badass.
There's probably got a better singer on the planet.
He's probably got the best Arkansas theme song of all time.
Oh, yeah.
When he did
he's
Little
another
Rock.
Arkansas guy.
Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
And when I would go to a Colin Ray show, I would be so connected to the lyric, was out front. And I just lived through that lyric. So does it ever bother you at all when you see what is being compared to Justin Moore, or saying that this is country music, but Justin Moore is also country music? Or is that something that you and your management don't like to even reflect on?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Whether it be that or whether it be award shows, which we've been a part of very little over the years, even with the success we've had, just different things I've learned, man. Early on in my career, it might have bothered me, but when I was younger, but I've learned, man, I control what I can control, and don't worry about all the other stuff. And, an example, I used to watch the charts like crazy. I mean, every day I was on my computer, my phone going, where are we today, with spins on the radio and this and that. You can drive yourself bonkers with all that stuff, So, and as far as, I don't know if this speaks to your point or not, but, I've been asked so many times over the years about, what I think about what we're hearing on the radio and I mean, I don't love everything on the radio personally, but I don't know that I ever have, to be honest with you. I don't think I ever have. So
it's a good point.
And country music is probably more diverse now than it ever has been. But it's always gone in waves of, the early 80s were pop, and then the 90s got super country, and it really has always done that. It's more diverse now because I think the artists, and I've said it earlier, I think the artists that grew up that are, so let's say, coming out now or 5-6 years into their career, I think they listen to more things than I did, and the generation that's coming out now, the one after my generation, they did listen to different stuff and they were influenced by different things. And I don't really concern myself with it. And here's another reason why, is because it's never affected me. I've been so fortunate with country radio for whatever reason that I've never really stopped having hits. Now I've fancied up some production through about the middle of my career, up until this point is kind of where it really went in that direction of the bro rap, rock, country stuff. And so, I had to be maybe a little more strategic about how we produced albums and records, and maybe writing a little differently. But I've just always tried to be really balanced and not ever contradict myself to my fan base and do something or say something that would contradict something earlier in my career. But at the same time, be cognizant of the fact that, we need to be on the radio still. I mean, that's how we create the most amount of awareness for our career. And so for whatever reason, I guess it doesn't bother me, to tie a bow on this. The stuff out there that I'm not a fan of doesn't really bother me as bad as it does some people, because it really hasn't affected me to a large degree, if that makes sense.
Total sense. Have you ever, with as real as your songs are, have you ever had a fan, and I'm sure you have, but go the other way on a song of like, I can't listen to that song when it comes on. I have to turn it off because it reflects so much reality in my life? Because, and here's where I'm going with that, Justin Moore, is that when you did I Wish Heaven Wasn't So Far Away, and my dad passed of a heart attack in 2006, like, I can't, to this day, I won't listen to that song, even though it's beautifully done and Dallas and the guys did an unreal job. Did Rhett release that song or cut that song at one time too?
He did cut it. I don't know if he released it as a single.
I don't know if he did.
He may have, but he cut that on an album. I forget what that album was called, but he did it for RCA Records, I believe. And that album had what's turned out to be a bunch of hit records on it. He never had a whole lot of success as far as that album being on the radio with him recording, his recordings rather, but it had Kiss My Country Ass, which Blake did and became a pretty big song for him, not on the radio, but people know the song.
Yeah.
And then there were a couple more, if not three more, including If Heaven Wasn't So Far Away. And I heard that song, and when I heard that song, it was 10 years old. And other than, I heard it right around the time my grandpa passed away, and he was my guy. He was my hero, probably my best friend. And we grew up hunting. He taught me everything about hunting, and so I heard it and thought, oh my gosh, how has this not been recorded outside of the Rhett thing? And so we put it out. We were looking for a first single from that album. I believe it was my second album. And it was a big record for us, obviously. And it kind of, to answer your question, which is a good one, but I don't think that I've had anybody tell me that, to be honest with you. Most of the time, to the contrary, they're going, hey, thank you, because it helped me cry, or when I needed to, or laugh when I needed to, or something like that. But I'm sure that you're not alone there. I think maybe people might, I guess maybe be a little gun shy of saying that to me in a meet and greet or something. I don't know, but I'm sure you're not alone there. But, and kind of to an example, going back to an earlier conversation, Luke Bryan came up to me, who I'm sure you know, and Luke and I have known each other for forever, and before either of us had a record deal. And so he came up to me and said, man, I'm pissed at you. And I'm like, what did I do? And he goes, Dallas has been trying to get me to cut If Heaven Wasn't So Far Away for, I don't know, 5 years or something at this point. And I'm like, dude, how in the world didn't you hear that song? Going back to hearing songs. And he's like, I don't know, I'm an idiot, whatever. So anyway, but yeah, that was a big record for us.
When you have the success that you have, Justin, do you ever get intimidated in the industry anymore? When you walk into a room with an iconic songwriter like, and this is my opinion, is David Lee Murphy. When you sit down with somebody like David Lee Murphy, and not to mention he's had radio success, he had hits, but just his songwriting and his the value of the being that he is in the industry, it's almost like probably sitting down with the Dean Dillon maybe. Do you get nervous when you get that invite or that opportunity, or is it just like you're so accomplished that you go in there as a confident musician and songwriter and you just lay it down? Or is there a little bit of like, oh my God, it's David Lee Murphy, even though you are as strong as you are?
Yeah. Hey, initially, for sure, man, I was nervous. I think the first time I wrote with him was maybe, I don't know, 3-4 years into my artistry, 2-3 years, something like that. I think we wrote some for my second album. So I had some success, but not to the point that I've had now. And hell yeah, I was nervous, man. I was just, he came out on the bus to write with me, and I would say a line and or sing a line, and to me it was okay or whatever, and he would sing the line that I just came up with, and you're like, that's freaking amazing. It just sounds better when you sing it or whatever. And so you're sitting there going, that's freaking David Lee Murphy right there. And so now we've become really good friends. Since that point we've become really good friends, and so I'm much more comfortable and much more confident with it. But yeah, those guys that whether you grew up loving their music or as I began this profession, and I learned to admire him on a whole different level. A guy like him, or Red, or any of these guys, Dean Dillon. You obviously, your confidence grows and you become more comfortable. And I had Dean Dillon on the bus for a weekend a few years back too, which was just mind blowing for me, and just an incredible experience. And the stories just go on for days and days with that guy. He's pretty incredible. So, but yeah. I here's the thing. People don't realize this. Fans don't realize this, but I'm still a fan of people and artists and songwriters and producers. And I mean, that doesn't go away,
You tell me if I mean, obviously this is just an opinion, but David Allan Coe wrote about the perfect country and Western song. And I've said for years that Dust on the Bottle is the perfect written country song that you can hear and live through and just picture that guy and those guys talking and that guy and that girl. And I don't know if you feel that way, but you're coming up in that air where that song had to influence you or inspire you in some way, because I feel that it's like you can't write a better song than that. There are songs just as good, but I don't think you can write a song better than Dust on a Bottle.
No, certainly for that type of song, I think it's top 5 country song of all time.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you thought that. Yeah. I agree.
And I've had conversations with David Lee about this. The other thing is, it was at the time that it came out, you mentioned like Chestnut with the Too Cold at Home, and all that, which was great. But nobody was really, it was rocking for its time, nobody was doing like that kind of stuff. That production wise, it wasn't as in your face. And so I think obviously the song itself was great, but I mean, even the guitar stuff on it for its time was kind of before its time, So great story about that, which I'll screw up. You need to get David Lee on here, but I've had him tell me this 12 times. He wrote that song by himself, which is amazing. But he was going to the studio, I think, for the last day of recording that album. And I think they needed a tempo song or something like that. And he just sat down and in his house that morning before going to the studio, he started writing it. And like Creel Williams was a real guy in his hometown that he grew up in. He goes, I got to the studio and just kind of jotted down a second verse, and he goes, we didn't have a clue if it even make the album. He said, let's just do it and see where it goes, whatever. And then boom, so which is just amazing. I mean, when you think about it, you would think that's one that they had to grind on for hours or days or, but
yeah, like that's
kind of just, he said, I just sat down and wrote it. It was a true story, but, and, we talked about Big Green Tractor, which is huge record. One of the biggest over the last decade plus, And he's like, yeah, I was just riding around on my farm on my John Deere tractor. And it just points to how great he is, which is kind of where this conversation started. There's not a more humble, more down to earth guy, and the same with Rhett and the majority of folks in country music, to be quite honest with you. Dean, I mean, they're all just, for the most part, good dudes. I mean, there's turds like there isn't any business, but for the most part, everybody that I've ever met and had the opportunity to work with has been nothing but great.
I'm so glad that you said that that's in your top 5, because I was in Darby, Montana last year filming some stuff, a backstory for this hunt we did with this guy named John LaMonaco, and they had this deal up there called Chainsaw Days. He says, I'm going to take you over here, and they got, they cut down high poles and they do log races and all this stuff. And David Lee Murphy was playing the concert that night to close it down. And I said, we're going. And it was like a writer's round. It literally was a David Lee Murphy writer round. He had his band and they rocked, but every song had a 5-minute prelude story. And I'm just sitting there in awe going, wow, that came up like this and that came up like this. And he's like, this is how we come up with Loco. And this is how we came up with Party Crowd. And I was just like, man, just like genius, right? Like, I don't want to throw that term around, but the guy's just gifted in that area. And I think that's why he's had such a long songwriting career. And he'll probably go down in history as he's got to go down as one of the greatest. I mean, the guy's insane, right?
No doubt about it. He absolutely should and will. And it's and he's got as much swag as I've ever seen in our business. I mean, he'll be out on the bus riding with me, and I'll be like, hey, DLM, you want to come up tonight and do Dust on the Bottle with us? And he go, I reckon we can give him a little dust, and he still puts his like badass jean jacket on and fixes that hair and goes out. He's still a star. You know what I mean? It's just so cool. Matter of fact, we wrote, we wrote While We Drink together. So the way that I wrote my last album and the one that'll be coming out whenever we can get in the studio and record it, we have all the songs for it. We went down, my wife and I have had a beach house in Florida for 7 years or something like that. And we just kind of went down there, holed up in our beach house, and me and him and my producer, Jeremy Stover, and a few other guys, Casey Beathard being one of them that was on this song. And we just drank beer and wrote songs and didn't put any pressure on ourselves to say, we got to get up at 10 o'clock and write this or that or whatever. And the reason we did it that like retreat style is because that's the way I used to do it when I lived in Nashville before I had a pot to piss in and nobody cared about my music. Like, I wrote my first couple of albums that same way. We would just pop down to the beach, which was about a 7-hour drive south from Nashville, and go down there and just hang out and write songs, drink beer, lock ourselves in the house. And so rather than do it on the bus, and now I live in Arkansas, I don't live in Nashville, so I don't get to hook up with those guys, like I could when I lived there. That's kind of the way we do it now. And so that's a long-winded way of saying we were down at my beach house, and I've had this idea Why We Drink I had it for a couple of years, and had thrown it out in a few different songwriter sessions, and nobody really bid on it. And I thought it was a pretty good idea, but I'm like, well, if it gets turned down 3 or 4 times, you get to thinking maybe it's not that great of an idea. And I told DLM, and he goes, "Cause it's Friday, cause it's Monday." And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. And man, we wrote that song honestly in probably 20 minutes in my pool drinking beer. I mean, it was like that quick and that simple, It was a fun one for sure.
How do you know it's done? Do you have to get DLM to put his stamp on it and say, we're done, we're getting out of the pool and we're going how do you know how do you know when it's done, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great advantage of having co-writers, and it's also the thing that is so amazing about a guy like him with Dust on the Bottle specifically is that he didn't, but you rely on each other to kind of pick it apart. But so once we wrote it, you read it down, typically is what I do, and say, hey, does it make sense? And there were just so many lines that I thought would grab people's attention, like alcohol abuse when you pour it down the sink, and like the line. I don't remember who came up with the line, but I just thought that's too good. Was the cheaper than a darned old shrink or a danged old shrink, and we were like, you just know sometimes, man. You just know. As soon as we wrote that song, I'd go, I mean, that's a monster hit. Before we recorded it. Some of them surprise you. Some of them you're like, I don't know, put it out there. If you think so, but we'll see. And then they turn out to be a big record. Small Town USA was an example of that. I like the song, and I relate to it, but I don't know if anybody else will, or enough people. I knew some people would, but with this one, I was pretty confident that it was a big record.
So was it?
Yeah, we're inside the top 10 right now. I think we're 6 or 7 on the charts, and so hopefully it'll ring the bell for us. That would be our. I don't want to jinx it, but it would be our 9th number 1 record, and so that would be pretty awesome to have. And what's weird about it, man, is to have a song running up the chart and not be able to be out on the road and see it. Fans reacting to it. I mean, when we came off the road, that song was probably in the 30s or something. And there's a major difference between.
Well, that is what's, I'm telling you, this quarantine has got me in my backyard. I'm cooking, I'm Traeger, I'm processing, I'm butchering, I'm swimming. There's 3 songs that I have as my quarantine anthems. I got Adam Hood, Hell of a Fight.
Yep.
I got Brent Cobb, Shine on Rainy Day, which I feel is one of the best written country songs that I've ever heard, that hits me in my gut every time. I think Brent Cobb is amazing talent. I think
both of those guys are, yeah.
And then Why We Drink. That has become our hold a beer up, and we're going to get through this, and hunting season's going to be okay, and our families are going to be okay, and our kids are going to get back to school, and these high school seniors are going to be okay without graduation. That song has become that backyard anthem of America, which that's where I touched on in the very beginning of our conversation, Justin Moore, is that your songs, when I picture you walking out from behind stage and sitting in the stands or the seats and watching Hank do his thing as Bo Cephas, and then when I picture myself doing that is what country music is supposed to do. Because when I go and listen to him tell his story while he's standing by his piano, and that he went in the house one day and little Richard was on the couch when Hank was 8 years old, and Elvis Presley's over here and Carl Perkins over here, I'm sitting there going, nobody would ever understand this kind of life and what this man has done. And then when something happens to that guy, like it did in the last 2 weeks with his daughter, it shows you of why we need song, why we need lyric. And that's why that song is so simple. In 20 minutes, I sit there and go, oh, really, Justin Moore, 20 minutes, huh? And we're sitting here listening to it for 45 minutes at a time, right? Like, that's what your music does to people. That's why I wanted to talk to you, and that's why I wanted to make sure you knew that my brothers and I can't listen to Heaven because of the way it makes me feel, of like, man, I wish I could just walk up there and say, what's up, Pops, but that's what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to gravitate. It's supposed to let you live through somebody vicariously. It's supposed to hit you in the gut and make you go, is Brent Cobb really trying to say that we only pray when our skies are gray? And should we give up and sink when we have a chance to swim? Like, when I hear those lyrics, those are my anthems, man. I'm not going to give up. This is why we drink. I'm not going to bastardize ourselves for having a cold beer during the quarantine. This is why we're doing it. And that song, every line in that song is so well thought out. But now I'm sitting here going, really, 20 minutes, man, 20 minutes.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that's great company to be in. I appreciate it. But and the thing is, man, country music specifically, I think, or maybe more so than any other genre, certainly there's great music that moves you in any genre, but I'm partial. Obviously, I'm biased to country music, but it makes you cry when you need to cry. It makes you laugh when you need to laugh. It makes you raise your cold beer if you need, want to do that or whatever. And so that's what I love about it. And there's so many great songs on each end of the spectrum in country music history and still today that do all of those things. And I kidded in another interview the other day that I probably should have, at least for myself, I probably should have named it "Why We Day Drink." I don't think I've ever had as many cold beers before noon in my life. But it's hot as heck in Arkansas, man. And I'm out in the garden picking peas and stuff, and I'm going, whew. I come back into my pool house and I'm like, I don't have any water in here. I guess I'll just drink a Budweiser or whatever.
Party was on here a couple weeks ago, and he had a solo cup just like you're holding right there. And I go, what time is it in Nashville right now? He says, you don't need to know that. And I was like, this is what this quarantine has done to us. It's it's okay. It's cool. It's like, I'm not saying that you have to have that excuse every time, but man, I think that it's gave me a lot of slowdown, and having a cold beer at 11 in the morning at the pool is okay, because you're still going to get your stuff done. You're still going to get your life done. But this quarantine has got people acting like that. I got friends that call me all the time, Justin. They're like, what time did you start drinking today? And it's like become like a topic of conversation, you know?
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. It's, and right at the beginning of this, I thought, I got off my bus at home and I thought, oh, hell, I'll see y'all, my bus driver, my tour manager. So I'll see y'all in a couple of weeks or whatever when all this blows over. And then when I realized that it wasn't going to, at least in a quick fashion, I did every project around the house that I possibly could. I ran a, chainsaw more than I have since I was 18. I've cleaned my garages out as many times as I possibly could, and done stuff around the house that I've been putting off for years, planting a garden. I'm about to build a chicken coop. Just all this stuff. And so I'm, where I'm going with that is I did that for a while and I thought, man, I'm working harder now than I ever have. I'm going to take a chill pill here and have a couple of cold ones early in the day and just chill out, and try to slow down, which is what this kind of has forced us to do.
Is that why you left Nashville? Did you leave Nashville because of that life could chew you up and spit you out, or the Broadway nights, or the being down in Midtown? Did it get to Justin more ever? Did you ever get caught up in being at Losers at 4 a.m? Were you ever at Whiskey Bent, or did you ever get caught up in the Nashville Music Row lifestyle, and that's why you had to get out of there?
I didn't. Certainly I like to party, man. And back then when I lived there, that was, in my early 20s. But I really didn't ever do that. I never really played the same game as everybody else. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. It just wasn't my style, man. Going and smoozing and doing all that at Losers. It just wasn't me. And the reason I'm back in Arkansas is, man, I was the only guy at all my friends who was not going, I can't wait to graduate and get the heck out of here. I was the one going, I don't ever want to leave. Of course, I'm the only one who did, because I had to. I knew that if I wanted to pursue this as a career, that was, you got to be in Nashville at least to get your career started and build and develop relationships with people there. And, but it was always my intention to move back home. I was never going to buy a house there. It was always, I'm going to put in as much time as I have to and then move back here. And the other reason for that is my wife and I were together then too. And, me staying out till 4 a.m. would not have boded well for my marriage. But, we had our fun. But, I was so focused on get my career going and then get back home. And it sounds cliche, but it's the honest to God truth. I just wanted to be able to hang out with my friends that I grew up with, because they were all back home, and I wanted to go to the church that I was a member of. I wanted to eat Sundays with my grandma and my mom and dad. And that sounds cheesy and cliche,
sounds awesome.
But it's honest to God truth, man. And so, when I had been wanting to move home after my first album did well, but my record label just despised the idea, which I understand. And then I finally, my wife and I were ready to do it. And my manager said, just move home. You're a grown man. Just don't ask, just move. And it wasn't 2 weeks later. I was back home. And so fast forward about 2 or 3 years after that, my record label president calls me and we're BSing about, I don't know, whatever record we had on the radio at the time. And, it's going well or it ain't going well or whatever the conversation was. And he said, oh, by the way, how long you been living back in Arkansas? I said, about 3 years now. and so he goes, well, all right, I guess you proved the point to me that you would still, work your butt off. I said, yeah, I've told you it wouldn't make a difference. The thing is, man, as a songwriter, you pretty much got to be there. You really do.
Yeah.
If you're predominantly a songwriter, but as an artist, you're typically in Nashville, you're off work. And so me and my wife were sitting, we started making some money, real money. And for the first time in our lives. And we were sitting in this big house that we were renting by ourselves, looking at each other going, what do you want to go do? And we had a daughter at the time, our first daughter, who's now 10, going on 11. And our friends there, which we still consider great friends, we're just at a different stage in their lives. And so it was just us sitting there by ourselves with our newborn baby going, man, it sure would be nice to be home. And so that's what really pushed us to move back at the time that we did. And, so it's been great for us. It's not for everybody. Nashville's great. I still own properties there. I still have great friends there. I still go there periodically for different things, but it just wasn't home, man. It just was never home to me.
What's the best steak in Fayetteville, Arkansas? Public restaurant that you can go to. Is it located on Dixon or
to probably go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm listening.
Probably to me, and I'm gonna screw the name up. You probably know it. It's the one that Ross goes to. I've been there with him.
Family style, like buffets, where like they bring it all out, the food and the fries and the big.
No, oh gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm failing right now.
Yeah, tell me which one you're thinking of.
Let's see here. This is gonna drive me crazy. You can edit my idiocracy.
No, you're fine.
But you'll know it. I'm sure you've been there. It's really good food. Did you ever meet Coach Bielema?
Yep.
Around him, it was his favorite place.
The one I'm thinking of is Doe's.
Doe's, yeah. That's the famous one around there, and it's great also.
Well, we went when I went to dinner with Coach. It was a badass sushi place on the outskirts of town.
Okay,
it was really good. It's like one of those Japanese steakhouse teppanyaki places with a sushi bar.
Bordino's.
I
was going to say Bordeaux's, but yeah, Bordino's, I believe it is. And there's another really good one out in Rogers, and I'm blanking on that name too. That's really, really good.
What about chicken? What's the chicken house there in
AQ?
AQ. And what's the little white house that's barely got any parking, and it's really popular for lunch with chicken? It's a guy's name, I thought. God, it's so famous.
Golly, man.
Man, I'm off too,
Stumping me here.
I usually know the name of all these places.
I'm usually pretty.
The quarantine hasn't had me in Arkansas for a minute.
I know, man. Well, and I haven't been up that way in forever. I mean, hopefully I'll get the opportunity with football season, but who knows now? But shoot, I know I can see the place you're talking about. As a matter of fact, I think they have.
AQ's awesome, but man, I can't remember the name of the one I was thinking. It might even be in Raw. It might not even be in Fayetteville. Might not be.
Let's see here.
It's not just chicken.
Theo's is another good one too.
Theo's is awesome. That place is right across. That's on Dixon, right?
I think so. Yeah,
they got the Brussels sprouts there.
Theo's, Bordino's.
So if I live in Fayetteville, Justin Moore, is there ever a chance, or any town, Little Rock, does it ever get to be a Nashville-esque night where I'm sitting there as a music fan and all of a sudden Justin's up on the microphone throwing down at George's or one of the little concert halls in Little Rock? And does it ever happen anymore? Do you ever get to do that, or do you ever want to do that, or are you just too busy?
I would say I want to, but typically when I'm up in Fayetteville, you know, I'm about 3.5 hours south of Fayetteville. We try to go to as many football games as we possibly can, and so a lot of times we take the kids, you know, and do that whole deal. So I don't have the opportunity that often to be you know, alone with my wife, and because we try to take the kids as much as we possibly can. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't want to, though.
Do you ever, you seem to, when I've met you the 2 times I have, you come across as a guy that might lose his shit on the sidelines of a Razorback game and might go out and jump right up in the huddle or right up in the celebration in the end zone.
Oh, yeah.
Would you call yourself a super fan of Razorback? Is it all around, or is it just the football team? Are you into the basketball?
No.
They got a great baseball program.
It's all of the above. I'm ridiculous. I mean, admittedly, fan is short for fanatic. And my tour manager, he kids me all the time because he's like, dude, you know, like who y'all just recruited in gymnastics or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I just keep up with it all, man. When you grow up in Arkansas, and you know this, that's what we got. We don't have any pro teams, and I love sports. I'm obsessed with sports, a lot of different sports. But and when I was growing up, man, we were really good at all 3 big sports. You know, I had my daughter ask me. This was a few years ago in basketball season, and she goes, "Dad, were we ever good at basketball?" I'm like, "Yes." It just pains me for you to even ask me that. You know, I'm like, "Yes." And so, you know,
was it Nolan Richardson?
I remember being a 12-year-old kid or whatever I was and watching us win the national championship in basketball, and Corliss Williamson and Scotty Thurman and all those guys. And we were never bad in football. I mean, we had down years, but we won 7, 8, 9, 10 games, you know, really frequently and until, you know, the Petrino debacle. And we just haven't recovered from that to the level at which, you know, we all hope. And that being said, I'm really good friends with Sam Pittman, and I'm really excited about him. And I honestly, in my heart, believe he's going to do really good things up there on the hill. And as you mentioned, the baseball team's just so much fun to watch, and what Coach Van Horn's been able to do. And so, yeah,
are
man.
You
when
a
you
fan
grow
of
up here,
Musselman?
this is all you. I love Musselman.
You know, you guys stole him from us, right? He come out to the
yeah. It's funny. A guy who works with alongside me in my management company is, which you may have met. I don't know if we had him at the time, but he's a big Nevada fan. And, you know, folks in Arkansas, to be quite honest with you, when they hired Coach Musselman, we didn't really know a lot about him because, you know, we don't get a whole lot of those games out there. Is it the Big Sky or the
Big West?
Big West. Okay. You know, we just don't get an opportunity to see a lot of those games. What he did, and I don't know if you kept up at all, but what he did last year with the pretty depleted roster was just unbelievable. And I certainly not at that level, but I played high school basketball and played AAU basketball and stuff. So I know the game and love the game, and I know what's going on in the game probably more than just some normal fans. And so he's an incredible coach, and
his wife's a great lady too. Have you met his wife?
I've not met his wife, and I've not met him. He and I have connected over the phone 2 or 3 times, and I've been Also, alongside my podcast, I've been co-hosting a sports show on Sirius XM, and he was a guest on it. And but
Oh,
it
that's cool.
seems like just an incredible. It seems like he has an incredible drive, and as far as coaching style, I really like it, and I think he's going to do some really good things too. And we should be pretty salty if they let us play this coming year. We should be pretty salty this coming year.
Yeah, I like going to Razorback basketball games. The crowd's insane in those too. I was at the football game when the running back, the injury 3 years ago, the real bad injury with the neck. Remember that? I don't know if you were at that game, but I was with.
I wasn't, but I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Raleigh
injury.
Williams III is his name. And
some of my favorite people that I've ever met through my excursions and my travels, and I'm very humbled to get to do what I do, Justin Moore. And I'm very thankful for the family that I have in Arkansas, extended family, friends. I've talked to you about them. Brandon Adams, his wife, Brandy, and Brian and his wife, Todd Ross and Chris, who I know that you were friends with, Joel Wicker, Marty Hesh. You can't, they're just what they've done for me and what they've taught me and what they've given me and how they open their arms every time I come down there. And whether it's, staying at one of their properties or hunting one of their properties or a dinner, or it just seems that way of life is what made you want to move back. And I could never fault you because, and people are going to get tired of me saying this someday, but I've always said I'm the adopted son of the South because I'm from Tahoe, Reno area in these mountains where there's no fried chicken and there's no crawfish boil and there's no Hattie B's and that. There's nothing like that out here that when I go down to the South, there's so much tradition. When you go to Prairie Wings Duck Club and Mr. Billy Bogey cooks you breakfast with his fried bologna and his grits, I'm like, man, this is life. I work out consistently to try to stay in shape so I can do that kind of stuff. But those people I just mentioned, like, that's why I would move to Arkansas and I tell BA this all the time. I'm like, dude, what the F, man? I haven't seen you guys since duck season ended, but usually by now I'd seen them 3-4 times through the spring and a football, a basketball game or whatever. And this quarantine's it really has showed me how special this life is and how humbling it is. And that when you get things taken away from you at the drop of a dime, a conversation on a couch in Fayetteville, Arkansas, or being at Theo's or being at Prairie Wings Duck Club down south of Stuttgart, it shows you like how blessed we are, and when you hear the songs that remind you of that, you're like, that is what life's all about. And as simple as that sounds, if people could just take that concept and say, look, man, just sit down and just think about the small things that we have. And that's what this quarantine has done to me, Justin Moore, is that when I look at my daughter doing a handstand in the pool, where before I'd probably be on a phone call or too busy or chasing my dreams out on the road, when I see that little thing, I wish and I'm so envious of people like you that can write a story in 3 minutes. I wish I had the talent to sit down and put a pencil to paper or talk into my iPhone and say, man, I want to put that in song, because I have the creativity to envision it. But songwriting is such an art, and the influence that I've gotten from your area of the country with those people I just mentioned, being around Todd Ross's wife, Chris, you're like, that's like an angel. That's like what heaven is, right? That's how you're going to get treated when you go through the pearly gates. A lady like that's going to take you under her arm and say, Chad, and she always says it. Joel Wicker's wife, Mimi, is always, Chad, you're part of the family. And that's what country music, that's what Arkansas, that's what the South does to me. It's so Southern to be that way. And I wish that the rest of the country would slow down and see how special it is. I've said to speak like you're from the South, to be from the South is like way more important to me than being from Europe or speaking Italian or speaking French. I mean, I want to speak Southern. And so it's kudos to you for this career. And I'm humbled to have you on here. I hope that our friendship thrives and we grow into a stronger bond. But I just wanted to let you know that your lyrics, the people that you live around, man, you're lucky to have the career that you had. You worked your ass off for it. And I know that it probably humbles you to where you got to pinch yourself almost daily.
Yeah, man, that's all well said, and I appreciate that. Certainly I'm biased to not only the South, but Arkansas specifically. I mean, it goes without saying, but really is, for the most part, really good people, really down-to-earth folks, hardworking people who, the town I live in is 300 people, the town that I grew up in. I'm looking at my parents' house out of my office that I grew up in, probably 700 yards away from my house. And all of those things that you just mentioned as attributes about this area, or this region or whatever, are the reasons why I'm still back here today, and I wanted my kids to experience the same thing growing up as I did. And another thing, man, I have 4 children, from 3 to 10. And so it's chaos constantly in my house. I never wanted me choosing to do this crazy thing for a living to affect them in a negative way. And I think being back down here in the South in Arkansas, my hometown specifically, helps in that fashion because, when I wake up in the morning, man, I said this earlier to someone too. When I wake up in the morning, I see me, the same me that I saw 20 years ago. Like, I don't see Justin Moore country singer like everybody else does, except the people back here. They're proud of me and they're proud for me and my family, and they're happy for us, but they don't really give a crap, which is awesome to me. Like I coach my daughters in softball. I coach them in basketball. And people will come ask for pictures every now and then from opposing teams, which doesn't bother me a bit. But all these 6, 8, 10-year-old girls that I'm coaching know me as Coach Justin. And it's more important to be known as that and be, hopefully a positive role model in these kids' lives. And also at the same time, teaching them a sport that I love, that my dad taught me. That's more important to me than any number one record. And I've always said this too. Like, I don't want to be just known, at my funeral. I don't want to be known as Justin Moore was a pretty okay singer. I want it to be a whole lot more than that.
I think it's so awesome to hear that. And I think that you would say, maybe not, but I will say it and you can tell me if you agree, but what Garth did with his career is very admirable of how he put family first, because with everything he's accomplished, I think he took almost 20 years off and he's still doing what he did. And so it's kind of that vibe, right? Of like, hey, I can go to anywhere in the world and be Garth and get a meet and greet and a picture and be famous. But being in Oklahoma and seeing these kids thrive and raising them as their daddy, it seems to me like that's what became, his mission, when he did take that hiatus.
Yeah, it's unbelievably admirable, to be honest with you. And I was one of those guys before all this hit that said, hey, man, I could come off the road and be fine and not miss it at all. And, if I had enough money in the bank or whatever, but this has proven to me that I don't know if I can be, man. I'm just not myself. I'm fine, but, and I certainly appreciate the additional time with my kids that otherwise, and my wife, that I wouldn't have had. And I'll always be thankful for that. But at the same time, there's something in me missing. So I say that to say this: for him to do that, I know that he had something missing too, because once you kind of do what we do, or people that do what we do, it's hard to turn it off and just be totally the same guy or girl or whatever. And so, yeah, it's incredibly admirable. And I'm sure his children will forever be grateful for that.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Justin Moore, hot seat.
Okay.
If you open your cooler and it's covered in ice and you reach your hand down in the ice and you pull out a cold beer, what do you hope that cold beer is going to be?
What do I hope it's going to be?
You don't see them. You can't see the red and white.
Is this summertime?
Yep. Summertime.
You know what I bought on accident the other day, and I didn't even realize I bought it, and we were on the lake because we've been spending a lot of time on the lake throughout all this, which is something else that we have never had time to do, which, my kids are just loving.
You're going to say Bud Light Seltzer.
No, close, but Bud Light Platinum.
Oh, it's good.
I never had one. And I thought I was buying something else. I don't remember what, but And I was like, what in the world is this? And it was great. So now because I had never even had one up until that point. So I may have to swap to those. But if it's wintertime and let's say we're at the duck camp or, deer camp or whatever, I love Guinness. Guinness is my favorite probably for that.
If Grandpa got to come back from heaven and it wasn't so far away, where do you and Grandpa go as soon as you see him?
Deer stand. Straight to the deer stand.
If you got one more concert ticket, couldn't be yours, obviously. Who is it?
Man, that's a good one. Golly, one. Probably Dwight Yoakam. He's my favorite artist of all time.
If you got to sit down with Hank Williams Jr., a.k.a. Bo Cephas, and you got to say, how in the hell did you come up with the lyrics for what song?
Dang, these are tough, man.
Mine's Outlaw Women. Maybe Dinosaur.
Probably just because I want to hear the story. OD'd in Denver.
Oh God, I knew it was coming to be my top 5. If you had somebody come to you and say Freddie Mercury, Robert Plant, Axl Rose, who's the best front man of all time in rock and roll music?
Give me that list again. Freddie Mercury, Axl Rose, and who?
Robert Plant from Zeppelin. I say that because those are my top 3, and I'm just testing you. I'm just testing you.
I probably like Zeppelin stuff the best, but as far as just a straight front man, probably Freddie Mercury. I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan. But those 3, Freddie Mercury, what he could do on stage and his delivery. But Axl just had that danger, man. I mean, he was just running around and in danger. All right. If I had the guts or the cojones, I would ask you to sing one, but I don't like putting people on the spot. I know that it's tough to do, and I know you probably don't have a guitar sitting there, which you should have one right there on that wall right there. I actually do. I've got one of the things that I haven't done is hang all my stuff. If you saw right over here, I've got like tons of plaques and stuff that I got to hang. That's one of the things I have not done yet for this. This is where I do my podcast and so I got it to a certain point and I just kind of stopped. But yeah, I've got a guitar. I can do a song if you want me to.
Can you sing one for my mom, Faith, and Why We Drink, our new anthem?
Sure. Yeah.
Hold on, can I get my brother real quick to come in here because he's learned it too. Hold on. This is my brother Clay.
Hey, what's up, Clay?
How are you, buddy?
How you doing, man?
Clay's been learning this song on the guitar. This is Bubba. How you doing?
Hey, Bubba. How you doing, man?
This is Tom, one of our guys here. We all work together. This is Justin Moore. He's a bad son of a bitch.
Hey, if you're learning my songs on the guitar, it's pretty simple, man. Every song is easy.
I love playing your music because, like you're saying, I don't sing very good, but around a campfire it sounds good with some whiskeys.
That's right. I like
Justin,
it.
Can you just dedicate this to Faith, please? This is her song.
You bet. We'll send this out to Faith. I'm gonna have to go get a cold beer after this. Cause it's Friday, cause it's Monday, cause it's a charcoal burning Sunday, cause we ain't gonna get to one day. That's why we drink. Cause the sun's up, cause the sun down, cause my wound up needs a little unwound. Cause we've been working all day, but we're done now. Yeah, that's why we drink. Cause we're ice cold, cause it's hot out, cause we're John both sitting with a line out. Cause we're a little messed up, but it's cheaper than a dang old shrink. Cause we're grown up, cause we're still kids, cause we love doing things cause our daddies did. Cause it's alcohol abuse if you pour one down. same. That's why we drink. Cause our team lost, cause our team won. The sweet home Alabama just came home. Cause we're all looking for a reason to raise one. Yeah, that's why we drink. Cause they're ice cold, cause it's hot out. Cause we're John boats sitting with the line out. Cause we're a little messed up, but it's cheaper than a dang old shrink. Cause we're grown up, cause we're still kids. Cause we love doing things cause our daddies did. Cause it's alcohol abuse if you pour one down the sink. Yeah, that's why we drink. To good friends, good times, you and me. To the red, white, and blue boys and girls overseas. Cause their eyes gold, cause it's hot out. Cause the John Bo's sitting with a line out. Cause we're a little messed up, but it's cheaper than a dang old shrink. That's why we drink. Cause we're grown up, cause we're still kids. Cause we love doing things cause our daddies did. Cause it's alcohol abuse if you pour one down the sink. Yeah, that's why we drink. Yeah, that's why we drink. Yeah, that's why we drink.
That was
There you
good
go.
stuff, brother. Good stuff.
Justin,
Hey, thanks,
Justin,
man.
are you being 100% serious that you and David Lee Murphy and another individual wrote that in 20 minutes in your swimming pool?
Yeah, we really did. It was me. It was me. Part of it was sitting on a swing we have on our back porch, and part of it was in the pool. But yeah, 25 minutes. It was like just lines were coming from everywhere, you know. And but yeah, it was me, him, my producer Jeremy Stover, and I'm trying to block that window, and Casey Beathard, who's just another incredible songwriter in Nashville. So yep, it was. You love when they come. You love when they come across that easy. I wish they all did.
Dude, that's why we drink. I love it.
Hey,
Good
Justin,
stuff, brother.
Justin, I would love to, and when that goes number one in the next 2 weeks, that we need to get on here and do a toast.
Hey, absolutely, man. Fingers
Nice meeting you,
crossed
buddy.
we get the opportunity. You too, man. Appreciate
All right,
you.
good to meet you. Cheers. Happy Friday, huh?
All right, guys. Y'all too.
Man, that song. So the line that my brother was bringing up was about the doing what your daddy did, and
yeah,
it's an anthem, man. It's another one of those songs that just, I don't know, man. I could talk about your stuff all day. Congratulations, man. And I'm proud to know you, and it's humbling to have you on here. And dude, I can imagine a campfire in Arkansas around duck camp and just hearing a couple of those with some beers.
No doubt about it. Hey, and but next time you get down this way to hunt or whatever, hit me up. You got my cell now, and love to get together, maybe at Ross's place, and go get some hunting done or something.
Oh, I'd love it. And when you're out west, or I'll see you on the road, it's going to get back to normal. Maybe not normal, but it's going to get back to where we'll get to see out. And I've seen you in downtown Reno. There was a span where you were here like 3 months in a row, and then you were at Night in the Country, and you were Drake White out there. And I was talking with you backstage with Drake one day, but you've been in our area a bunch.
Yeah, I love that part of the world, man. It's so beautiful, and it's just so different than it is here from a geography standpoint, landscape standpoint, all that stuff. And I really enjoy visiting out there, and crowds are always great, fans are always great, and it's a lot of fun to visit for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and I look forward to the new record. I can't wait till Why We Drink is number one. That's a smash, man. It's freaking awesome. I hope it stays there for a minute too.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. We've been blessed, man. We really have been, and we certainly don't take it for granted. So each and every time we get up in this area of the chart, we try to soak it all in for sure.
Hey, Justin, we have an official playlist on Apple Music called The Foul Life. On our TV show, we've had a lot of musicians hunt with us and document kind of their story and their songwriting. And we've done some really cool stories on there, and I hope that I get to do that one day with you, because I love your story and your down home roots and everything that you're about, your kids, your wife, your grandparents, your parents. I would be honored if you'll let us put Justin Moore's library on that playlist. It's a shared playlist that is obviously Apple Music, but it's one that, the guys that come on here on our TV show, that we love their music. But I always ask permission first, because I don't want you just seeing me, promoting Justin Moore's music. I didn't know I was on that playlist, but I'd love to have you on there.
Absolutely, man. I'd be honored.
I love it, man. I can't wait. Well, man, I'd love to do this again. Tell people about your podcast.
Yeah, man, real original name. It's called the Justin Moore Podcast. But no, it's an idea, man. Just in brief, it's an idea that I've had for 3 or 4 years now. And I've always used the excuse that I didn't have the time. Certainly I don't have that excuse anymore. And so, when this all hit, 4 months ago or whatever it was, I just kind of quickly went into developing that. And I'm working alongside a company that does great work called Sport and Story, and we put it out. It's out there anywhere you can find podcasts, and just it's myself co-hosting alongside my tour manager JR, and we've had a lot of fun with it, man. It's different for me to be on that side of the mic as opposed to the one I'm on right now. I certainly don't have the experience in that, but it's been fun for me because we've talked to, the goal was to talk sports and hunting and fishing, outdoor life, and just kind of home life for me, and kind of peel back the curtain for folks to give them a glimpse into, my life off stage and on stage, but, kind of take people deeper into me as a person than ever before. And so we've also talked to some artist buddies of mine. We've had Brantley Gilbert on, we've had Tracy Lawrence, Chris Jansen, we just talked to Granger Smith, and we'll continue to have different guests on. It's not a guest each and every time, but I'd say up until this point it's been half or more, and it's fun, man. And I'm a guy who actually does not like social media. I don't have it on my phones or anything. I certainly approve everything that comes out under my name, but I don't actually do it. And so it's been a way for me to connect with fans on a deeper level, since I'm not as engaged in those things as some artists are. And it's been fun for me also because I hate talking on the phone. And usually I think we all kind of, to a degree, fall into the trap of asking somebody via text or on the phone or even in person, hey, how you doing? And not really listening to the answer. It's just kind of a formality.
Yep.
And doing this podcast has allowed me to spend 45 minutes, an hour or whatever with some of these guys who not only are friends of mine, but I actually I admire them more as people. And ask them, hey man, how you doing during this? And really listen and really have a conversation. So it's been fun on a lot of different levels for me personally. And I obviously hope that anyone and everyone out there who is at all interested will go check it out for sure.
Yeah, I think that message rings true. And I hope one day that we can walk into a restaurant and see a table of 4 people actually conversing and talking and finding out how each other's doing instead of checking their Instagram likes and their Facebook status. And I'm not saying that I haven't been guilty of it, but I've really tried to make a better attempt at none of that and trying to be present and trying to soak it in. And that's what I tell everybody. It's usually I don't do anything over the phone or over the internet or Zoom for the podcast. It's always been live in studio. This whole thing right here is a studio sound design room that we built, and it's all just done. It's really, really nice. And I'm sure you have this. I'm sure you've been in enough studios to know that I love that back and forth. I love that one-on-one and getting to know somebody. And I think that that's what a fire at duck camp allows me to do. I've learned all that through the outdoors and through my travels of being present is key in life. And whether you are there for a friend or you're there to meet a new person, you just never know what's going to come out of being present. And it could be a strong friendship, it could be a door opening, it could be an opportunity, it's just a lot of cool things that vibe when you actually sit down and understand, somebody that you're talking to. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, there's nothing like personal human interaction. This Zoom stuff is, I guess it's great that we have it. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done during this time, but at the same time, it's just not the same,
Wow.
And so I look forward to getting, on the other side of this thing and having the chance to cut it up in person with you and other friends of mine. And like I said, get back out there and get on stage, man. That's where I feel most comfortable, is on that stage. So.
Yeah, and I love it. I've been to so many of them. I'll be going to more Justin Moore shows. I hope everybody listening does too. This has been awesome for me, and hopefully people figure out, what's behind this man and his music and his lyrics. It's pretty freaking special. So, Justin Moore, I don't know. I know you got a new record in the works. We're waiting on quarantine to get done, to get it released and get it mastered, I guess. But I can't wait for it to come out, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm looking forward to it as well. I said in a lot of interviews that I think our last album is probably our best album, top to bottom. And I really think the material we have ready for this album is just as good, if not better. And that's not just artist speak. I really believe that. I think I'm doing my best songwriting in my career over the last 2-3 years. And so that's a blessing in itself. I'm happy to still have a few songs left in me, for sure.
Is there a time where you took one of these new songs and texted it to DLM and said, what do you think?
It's funny because I mentioned when we first jumped on here that I just wrote a song called That Wasn't Jack. And I wrote that with him as well. So he may get back-to-back singles on me. So, but
I can't wait to hear that.
That's a no-brainer one too. Somehow we tied Jack Daniels into a love song or a heartbreak song. So there you go.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I know I'm going to hit you up on a little barter system to send you some gear, and I want to get a signed vinyl for the studio, and
that'd be awesome.
And I want to get some Justin Moore merch, and I got a couple shirts, but I want to get some of the new updated stuff and wear it and everything that we do. We support the career, man. We love what you do, and I'm truly blessed to have you on here. Thank you so much, bro.
Hey, it means a lot to me. I appreciate you having me. Next time we'll get you on ours and our podcast, and certainly we can definitely do some gear swapping for sure.
Oh yeah, well, I'll get an address from you and get some stuff on the way, and then sure. I can't really send you Banded because I'm sure Rossi's got you tied in with everything that you need from Banded. So
he really doesn't, actually.
What?
No.
What?
How dare him?
I know, dude. I would send him a text right now.
I've never really asked. I hate to be that guy,
I'll get you dialed in.
I'm more than willing to rep it for sure.
Well, yeah, we need Justin Moore and Banded. Heck yeah.
I texted him when I first started the podcast. I go, man, that may be a good sponsor for this podcast, And
yeah,
so anyway,
Banded. You got to send him and BA a group text and put the salesmanship on him.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you redneck enough to where y'all are shooting off your own fireworks tomorrow night, or are you staying away from that?
It's funny. Yes, I am, to answer your question. But we're never here at home on 4th of July. We're always at our beach place in Florida. And so they have their own big, huge displays and stuff. And so this year we are going to a friend of mine's place, so they do it all. So, but we talked about doing it over the pond this year, but we got invited to a friend of ours home that they're doing it. So it was less work for me.
Well, that'll be fun, man. I wish I was there in Arkansas sometimes to enjoy that kind of stuff. I'll get down there. We'll have a little kinship, and like I said, I'll make a little video and we toast your new #1 hit, because it truly has become our little savior over this quarantine. We listen to it, and when I say constantly, I mean constantly. Whether my brother's singing it and we're singing along, or you're on the Deemer box and the Bluetooth, we're rocking it constantly, bro.
I love it. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys dig it for sure.
Well, keep putting them out. I can't wait to hear the new Jack song, and I'll hit you up, and yeah, let me know. And I'd love to be a guest on your podcast and come on and rap about Traeger and some grilling and throwing down, and we'll talk about that off key too.
Awesome, man. Sounds great, brother.
That's Justin Moore. Another episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody. Thank you all for supporting the partners and sponsors that support us. Jack Daniels, thank you so much for what you do. Please enjoy it responsibly this 4th of July weekend, and check out Justin Moore's music. It's going to be added to the Foul Life playlist on Apple Music. Why We Drink. I can sit here and name off all of his songs, but we are out of time. Tom, hit that button. I don't know, Justin, about this question. You can tell me to know, because I know how publishing plays, but like when Riley Green was on here and partying these guys, I say, hey, can I go out? Because I usually go out with a Leith Lofton song that he wrote with Bobby Pinson and Drake White called What You Gonna Do When the Money's All Gone. But can we go out with a Justin Moore song, or is that a no in publishing, or do you own anything that you can let me go out with? I
am really ignorant as it pertains to being able to answer those questions in an educated fashion. I just know from my own podcast that there are some steps that you got to take, I guess, but I don't know what they are.
Sometimes if it's all publishing owned, I get it, man. I get it. Trust me.
So, I mean, hey, that stuff is so ridiculous to me, because what I'm doing on my podcast is playing a song by a different artist, play a Hank Jr. song or whatever to end the show. And that I kept getting just pushback. I'm like, I'm doing it. Y'all figure it out. Like I'm doing it. So just do whatever you got to do to figure it out. Yeah. So I don't know what they've been doing to figure it out. So, but it's like, for me as an artist, I'm like, I would love you to play anybody to play my music anywhere. I mean, obviously.
It's crazy. No, I appreciate that. That's why I didn't want you to hear this, and then all of a sudden I throw on Small Town USA, and then your publishers and management go, whoa. It's just it's a tricky deal with TV and everything.
I don't even understand it all. But
well, maybe before we produce this, we'll get permission on one. If not, no big deal. Justin Moore, we love you, brother. Good job on the career. Congratulations on your success. And thank you so much for the humility, man, and living life the way it was meant to be lived. Your kids should be proud of their dad. Your mom and dad should be proud of their son. I'm glad to know you, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, likewise, man. I appreciate the kind words, and I right back at you. And thanks again for having me.
Can't wait to do it again. That's Justin Moore. This Life Ain't For Everybody. Thank you all so much for subscribing.
I'd rather be poor living off in a hole, rich as hell without a soul. Life on earth.